All right, what's good? I have Forrest here. Basically, I've been wanting to do some videos on reincarnation, and so I figured I didn't really know how to start it off, and I was reading and researching about some other things, and I started reading about Alexander the Great. Title of the video: Alexander the Great and Russ Vitale. So if you don't know who Russ is a rapper that is from America and from Atlanta, which was where I'm stationed, if you will. And so I know a good deal about him. And and really, I just wanted to, I wanted to find some people that were modern day celebrities that you could compare to um, past ancient celebrities. And first, before I go into it, I kind of need to like explain that I know a lot of people don't think reincarnation exists, and I know that they think it's kind of like a myth and things like that, and that's fine. But I don't, and so basically, I wanted to kind of touch on some things about reincarnation that seem to be manifesting in our modern world. And a lot of people will say, I'm the reincarnation of Nikola Tesla. I'm the reincarnation of Mickey Mantle. I'm the reincarnation of Alexander the Great, Jesus, Aristotle, Plato, Pythagoras. It goes on and on and on. And a lot of these people, they pick these ancient figures who are, so far gone, like, and a lot of times the reincarnation comes from their ideas of their self and their experiences or memories they may have. Like we have already recorded facts of children remembering things that they don't know how they know these things. And there's also other things like strange birthmarks that people have that they explain in reincarnation. And so I kind of wanted to get more into the pattern of how I think reincarnation is kind of manifesting in modern society. And so, one of the first things we really need to look at is that back in the day, back when a lot of these people feel like, oh, I was Nikola Tesla, or I was, Jesus, or I was Alexander the Great. We got to realize that way back, especially in the times of like Alexander the Great and these ancient times like BC and even hundreds of years AD, there was not as many people on the earth as there are today. There are billions of people on the earth, billions. Back then, there was probably not even close to over a billion. So there's probably even only hundreds of millions of people, about as much as about as many people that are in America were on the whole planet. So it's pretty interesting when these patterns recapitulate and keep going through. Well, these patterns keep perpetuating. I mean, and they keep creating um, new souls. So what I'm trying to create is this idea that, and this is not my idea. This is a popular idea in New Age theories and even in reincarnation theories from like Hinduism and stuff like that. Is that nowadays um, these big ancient souls like Alexander the Great are like splitting into multiple souls. So that's why we have strange phenomena and stuff like that, which I'll get into another time. But how I will explain this, I'm going to use Russ as an example because I was going through studying about Alexander the Great and I was reading about his physical appearance and his personality. And I said, huh, this sounds like somebody. And so, what I'm going to do is I'm on Wikipedia, but this is a well cited Wikipedia. So I'm going to go in and just read you the physical appearance and personality of uh, Alexander the Great. And those of you that know who Russ is, which is probably you if you're watching this video, um, you'll see what I mean. And so, first, I will preface it with saying that um, in reincarnation, a way that you can really tell if you were somebody or something is you'll have similar physical attributes to who that person was. And you'll also have similar personality traits. And then the real thing is that you'll have similar experiences. And it's kind of hard as a young person or younger than, 50 to 60 to tell if you really did have those experiences because you haven't really compiled enough time. So a lot of young people might have inklings that they're somebody, but won't be able to really tell because they don't have enough experiences to back it up. And so you kind of go off of physical appearance, personality, maybe dreams you've had, etc. So going from physical appearance and personality first, I'm going to go with Alexander the Great's physical appearance. Physically, Alexander was not prepossessing, meaning he was normal. Even by Macedonian standards, he was very short, though stocky and tough. His beard was scanty, meaning not full, and he stood out because he went clean shaven often. His neck was in some way twisted so that it appeared to be gazing upward at an angle. His eyes, one blue, one brown, revealed a dewy, feminine quality. He had a high complexion and a harsh voice. Okay, it's also described that he was ruddy and had like ruddy chest hair and stuff like that. So okay, that's red, and we know that Russ doesn't have red hair, but at the same time, um, well, he did a interview on Everyday Struggle where he was wearing his shirt open, and you could see his chest hair. So that's how I know. But we all know that Russ is very short, and he is more of a stocky and tough build, and his beard is scanty, and he has one brown eye and one hazel eye, and he has very dewy feminine eyes and qualities, and his voice is described as raspy. And so okay, very very interesting, coincidental. So we go into the personality, and we have and Russ is Sicilian. Let's just say some of the background. He's Sicilian. He's a singer songwriter, hip hop recording artist, and if you don't know him, I'll explain as we go. So basically, some of Alexander's strongest personality traits formed him in response to his parents. His mother had huge ambitions and encouraged him to believe it was his destiny to conquer the Persian Empire. Okay, so the Persian Empire was very large. It was like the empire. And nowadays, we don't have things like that anymore. But if you think about the world as almost a globalist society, music is its own empire, and it basically stretches and spans the entire earth. And if you know the history of the history, if you know the ascent of Russ, basically he's conquering the music industry much to the envy of many people, and he's doing so in a way that many other people wish they could do. They wish that they could, you know, have the accolades that he has, sell out the shows that he has, goes on the tours that he has, make the kind of money that he has, and do it in the way that he has, where he's not having to cater to a label. He did it all himself, and then the label came to him, gave him the money, and gave him the platform. And if you know Russ, he has a lot of detractors. A lot of people will comment on his social media, lots of negative things about him. And he does have a lot of people that support him as well, but that's kind of how his career has been going. And so it's very interesting that some of these things match up. So his mother had huge ambitions, and if you know, I don't want to talk about people's families and stuff like that, but Russ's mother is a very spiritual person. She is like a light worker and like a diviner and like an energy healer. I mean, I've dated a woman that was an energy healer, and that's a very, it's a viable career. And I'm sure, instilled in him the fact that he can manifest his reality. I'm sure you've seen, if you know anything about Russ, he's said that many times. And so had this somehow instilled in him. So here it comes. And his father was Philip the king, I believe. Yeah, he's the king, and he was the most influential role model of him because basically he was always trying to one up his father. So it basically says here that his father was a media influential role model, and he watched him campaign and he watched him win victories while like not avoiding wounds. And then because of that, he felt like he needed to outdo him because he felt like his father would leave him no great, brilliant achievement to be displayed to the world. So he also downplayed his father's achievements. And I don't know if that's exactly the case with Russ, but he does have a distant relationship as far as you hear him talk about his mom in songs and things like that, and you hear him talk about his family, but you don't really ever hear him mention his father. And I'm not really sure if it's true or not, but it seems like it could be. Um, Here are some of his personality traits, though. He had a violent temper and a rash, impulsive nature, which undoubtedly contributed to some of his decisions. Now, if you know anything about Russ, I don't know if he has a violent temper, but he does have a very rash, impulsive nature, and he does have a a temper. Like he gets riled up, and he's made kind of some enemies from doing this by going into interviews and saying things and doing things that were kind of like against what most people would normally do in interviews, like calling out people in the music industry, calling the music industry out itself, kind of like talking about himself in a very like cocky way and stuff like that. And it says that he was stubborn. Alexander the Great was stubborn and did not respond well to orders from his father. He was open, however, to reasoned debate. And if you watch Russ talk, he does seem stubborn, and he doesn't like to take orders from these people telling him how he's going to live his life. And he says that multiple times. He's talked about, I ain't going to listen to how these people tell me. They're going to tell me, make me the king. He's like, you're going to tell I'm a king, and you're going to make, he says things like that. And, but however, if you sit there and talk with him, which you see him talk with people, he is very open to debate. He is reasonable. It says next, he has a calm side, perceptive, logical, and calculating. I think we all know you got to be pretty perceptive, logical, and calculating to make it in the music industry. And he had a great desire for knowledge, love for philosophy, and because I can hear some people being like, "What the fuck is this?" There was no doubt, in part due to Aristotle's tutelage. So I don't know if Russ had like a very powerful mentor or anything like that, but Alexander was tutored by Aristotle. Um, his intelligent and rational side was demonstrated in his ability and his success as a general. Like Russ is obviously a good strategist. He's conquered the music industry in a way that's an envy to many other even powerful musicians. They're kind of like, who the fuck? How the fuck is he doing this? And there's even people that have said when he can't, like, even though he receives all this hate, like when he comes onto stage, everyone seems to sing his songs. He's like, you know how rare that is in rap, like that everyone knows the words to all your songs. So it's kind of interesting that like he catches all this flack, but the crowd knows all his words. So how, there's this like up and down here of, when someone's conquering the world, and this is truth with Alexander the Great, is that he would conquer places and then he would take locals from that place who obviously didn't like him. He just killed a bunch of their people, and he would make them like him by using them as um his like representatives in those places, his like rulers in those areas. And in the end, he would gain more power through this. And so it also says he had great self-restraint in the pleasures of the body. I don't know if Russ necessarily does, because he obviously talks about women quite a lot, but it does seem like he has the ability to, he says like he doesn't call hoes after hangups in one of his songs. And I'm not saying that's how he always would be, because he did cheat on the girl, but um, it seems like he knows when to keep it dry and when to get it wet, if you you know what I mean. So I would say that it's possible that he does have self-restraint. He definitely does, because you can't really be super loose and not have lots of consequences that keep you from proceeding. So um, there's that. And then in contrast with his that was in contrast though to his lack of self control with alcohol. And if anyone knows, Russ loves gin. He constantly talks about it. He said, I shoot shots because I don't know what else to shoot. You know what I mean? He if you look into his career and things like that, you see a lot of pictures of him with Tanqueray bottles. Always got a Tanqueray with him. Okay? So, even though he does seem like he may have his shit together, he seems like he does have a lack of self-control when it comes to drinking. He might drink a little bit more often than the average person should. Okay? So, he, however, patronized art and science. Now, I want to say this because Russ is an artist. So, how is this possible? Um, he says something. I'm from Atlanta, so I live here, and this is where Russ came out of. I mean, um, familiar with the area he's from. Anyway, so he has an interview in Creative Loafing, and if anyone knows Atlanta, it's not really it's a great place to launch a career in music, but it's not really the most supportive place. And he was already getting famous before Creative Loafing was even doing, which is an Atlanta thing. It's other places, but in Atlanta, it's a big thing. And before Creative Loafing even did an article on him, he was already famous. So that's how kind of Atlanta is. They're kind of bandwagoners. And he says in this article, I if you know me, my music isn't like out there. It's straight to the point about my life and autobiographical, basically, just like who I am and my thoughts and stuff like that. I don't write things like blueberries in the sky and stuff like that, meaning this abstract stuff like strawberry fields forever. You know what I mean? That's kind of like what I'm sure he was thinking. And I think that is almost patronizing of art because art is an abstract thing. And a lot of people say Russ's music is very simple and very just like it almost patronizes other artists, the fact that he's so successful because his music is so simple and so like I wouldn't say repetitive, but it is always about him. And so it's very interesting that this man who conquered the whole world, Alexander the Great, and it was like his dream to be the fucking man is, you know, okay, so he had great charisma and force of personality. This made him a great leader. Obviously, he leads a group of people that are strong masculine forces, like alpha males. And he's almost like the leader of them. So, um, yeah, there's and it says he was the only one that was able to unite Macedonia and retain the empire, and then after his death no one else was able to do it. I'm not trying to say, I hope that he has a long and profitable and prosperous life and career, because I would love to see what if he's one of those people that's like an Elton John or somebody like that, that's going to be making music forever, and like he's going to be here like it's a Springsteen ticket. That's something he says. Oh, I forgot about that. I'm still going to be here like a Springsteen ticket. And so, I mean, and is anybody going to be able to do what he did? Because what he did basically was look what he did. This is uncommon. It's not that other people don't do things like this. It's uncommon. From December 2011 to August 2014, Russ released 11 albums and 87 singles consecutively, all free of charge. And then in 2016, he partnered with Columbia Records. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is like most people partner with Columbia Records, then they release one album. Okay. Which is, how his career went afterwards. Like they'll get a single or two singles or three singles and they'll just go around town performing it all the time and things like that. This man was constant. Okay. He did things that people dream of doing. And he did really actually manifest his thought because like that's what he wanted to do and he did it. And it does say something in here about that. Oh, here it is. During he exhibited signs of megalomania, meaning like, you know, it's technically a personality disorder, but it's exaggerated feelings of self-importance. His extraordinary achievements, coupled with his own sense of destiny and the flattery of his companions, may have combined to produce this effect. Delusions of grandeur. I don't know if you remember him ever. I mean, I don't really follow him that much, but he's talked about a lot. And I mean, when I first saw him, I followed him more, but he said things like, "I'm gonna win 12 Grammys this year." I mean, you're not gonna win 12 Grammys, man. I'm sorry. You're just not, because the Grammys don't judge things like that. It's like the Infinity War saying it's gonna win 12 Oscars. Okay. It's a great movie, entertaining, but it's not an Oscar movie. Okay. So, but he has delusions of grandeur, technically, and he had a readily visible in his will and desire to conquer the world. And if you think of the world, interchange it with music world, pretty powerful figure as far as that goes. So those are some of the things that contribute to. I'm not saying, now this is what I want to get to. I'm not saying that Russ is the actual reincarnation of the Alexander the Great, because like I was saying, back then there was probably only, let's just say, I'm sure there's a number out there, but there's probably only 800 million people on the whole entire planet. Okay, so now there's 7 billion, and so this whole pattern is or perpetuating itself, like I was saying. um and it's possible that the influence of the archetype of who Alexander the Great was just recapitulates backwards, perpetuated into now. And so it could be possible that like 10 people are Alexander the Great. But from what I've read here, it is very likely, or it makes a lot of coincidental sense, that he so here we go. Here he has heterochromia. His left eye is dark brown and his right is light brown. He is like, I believe, like no taller than 5'8", like 5'5", I think. How tall is Russ? Russ height 5'5", 5'5". If you look at pictures of him, his beard is like got patches missing. He has a very, very feminine features, dewy face, or dewy eyes, like very like watery and like feminine eyes. You know, these are all traits that are describing Alexander the Great. So the whole point of all this is to explain how in modern times you might be able to recognize yourself as somebody from ancient times. And a lot of times people like I was saying, like this guy really thinks that he was, let's just say Nikola Tesla. And he has lots of traits of Nikola Tesla. But this guy thinks he was Nikola Tesla. And they're both kind of like him. That's what I think this phenomena is doing in our day and age, is that we're coming to a turning point in life where it's like, it's kind of like compressing. Like if you were thinking about music, it's compressing the energy of the vibration of certain frequencies, and it's making them run through their karma way faster. And so in order to do so, they need to basically split souls and have group souls. And so I think that by using sort of the guidelines I kind of just went through right here of personality traits, and see how many there were in this one though. Like it's not just like, oh yeah, I have brown hair, so I was this person. I got a dread, so I was Bob Marley. Like it's not that. It's a lot of things stacked on top of each other. That's how you would kind of recognize if you are somebody. So this is more of to um like to help people realize what the pattern of incarnation might look like, instead of it being I like this stone, man. Dang. Instead of it being so confusing as far as like, oh, well, I don't really understand how that would work. And a lot of people would say there's no such thing. But yeah, here's my spiel on it. And I'm hoping that I can find some more examples of how this works later. This is just the first one I found that seemed to have like plenty of information in it. And I had a couple more in mind, and we'll see if I can actually get to those. I'm trying to do some females, honestly. And yeah, so yeah, let me know what you think. Does that make any sense? All right. Peace be with you all.